So from the above theorem, it is clear that an integer is congruent to 0 if and only if it is divisible by m. For example, we know that 4 divides 28. That means 28 is divisible by 4. Hence, we can say that 28 is congruent to 0 modulo 4. Okay, so under modulo 4 we can consider 28 as 0 actually. These congruence relations we are using, this modulo relations we are also using in our day-to-day life because when we are talking about the time we are using as modulo 12, isn't it? And so we have 24 hours of time. In 24 we know that the time 13 hours is also we are calculating, we are reading it as in 12 hours clock, we are considering it as 1. 13 is congruent to 1. So actually it is 13 congruent to 1 modulo 12 actually. Why this happens? 12 divides 13 minus 1, that is equal to 12. 12 divides 12. And if the time is what? If the time is 24 we know 12 divides 24. So we can say that 24 is congruent to 0 modulo 12. So we are considering the 12 am. Sorry, 24 is 12 am means it is actually we are considering the time as 0 hours, isn't it? So we are using this congruence business in our day-to-day life. Also, when we talk about the week days in a week, we are using modulo 7. Okay, now we move to some important properties of congruence relations. First of all, we'll talk about theorem 4.2, which gives three important properties. First one is reflexive property. That means any number is congruent to itself under any modulo m. Under modulo m. So A congruent to A modulo m, and the congruence relation is symmetric. That means if A is congruent to B modulo m, then vice versa also happens. That is B is congruent to A mod m also true. And the last one is transitive property. What is transitive property? If A is congruent to B modulo m and B is congruent to C modulo n, then A is congruent to C modulo m. So if A congruent to B and B congruent to C, then it happens that A is congruent to C modulo m. So this is the property, transitive property. These three properties together known as equivalence relation. So congruence is an we can say that congruence is an equivalence relation. Any relation which is both reflexive, symmetric, and transitive is known as an equivalence relation. So here we have to prove the congruence relation is reflexive, means equivalence relation. First of all, we need to prove that A is congruent to A modulo M. That is the reflexive property. We know that for any congruent modulo M, M divides, we can say that M divides 0. Since 0 can be written as 0 into any integer, 0 into M is also possible. So we can say that M divides 0, or M divides 0 means we can write A minus A. So if M divides A minus A, we can say that by definition of the congruence relation, this implies A is congruent to A modulo M. So this is the reflexive property. Reflexive. Now second one, we need to prove that A is congruent. If A congruent to B modulo M, then B is congruent to A modulo M. So suppose A congruent to B modulo M, then by definition we have that is then by definition we have M divides what? A minus B. So M divides A minus B. This implies M divides minus of B minus A, which implies M divides B minus A also. Hence Again, by the definition of congruence, B is congruent to A modulo M. So, the reflexive property is also proved. Now, the remaining is transitive property. So, for that, assume suppose A congruent to B modulo M and B congruent to C modulo M. That is A congruent to B modulo M means that is M divides A minus B and M divides B minus C. Then by the property of divisibility, this together implies M divides A minus B plus B minus C. We know that if M divides A and M divides B, then M divides alpha A plus beta B. That means it divides all the linear combinations of A and B. And so using that property, we can write M divides A minus B plus B minus C. That is M divides A minus C minus B plus B get cancelled. A divides A minus M divides A minus C, or this implies A congruent to C modulo M. So the transitive property is also satisfied. That means congruence is an equivalence relation. Is an equivalence relation. For considering for an example, we have the example for reflexive property. We know 6 is congruent to 6 modulo 5. Also, since 3 congruent to 5 modulo 2, we have 5 also congruent to 3 modulo 2. So this is okay. Since and one more thing, for the transitive property, since 7 is congruent to minus 5 modulo 4, isn't it? 12. So, and minus 5 is congruent to minus 5, 20 is a multiple. So, 15 modulo 4. Then by the transitive property, 7 is congruent to 15 modulo 4, isn't it? 7 minus 15 would be, it is minus 8. So 4 divides minus 8. So we have 7 congruent to 15 modulo 4. This way congruences are true. Now we give another characterization of congruences. Characterization of congruences. Congruence relation. That is theorem 4.3. A is congruent to B modulo M if and only if A and B leaves the same remainder. When divided by M. So another definition, we can consider this as a definition of the congruence relation also. That is, we say that A is congruent to B modulo M if and only if A and B, both A and B leaves the same remainder when divided by M. So we have already discussed two more definitions about the congruence relation. The first one was the typical definition, that is we say that A is congruent to B modulo M for a positive integer M if M divides their difference, that is A minus B. M divides A minus B. And the next thing was A is congruent to B modulo M If and only if B is equal to, that was the relation between congruence and equality. B is equal to A plus some K into M. That was the second theorem. So now we are saying that A is congruent to B modulo M if and only if both A and B leave the same remainder when divided by uh, M. So all these definitions are quite similar. So let's move to the proof of this theorem. First of all, we have to assume that A congruent to B modulo M. Then by the relation between equality and this theorem, then by that is theorem 4.1, then by theorem 4.1 we can write A as B plus some integer K into M. Okay, A is equal to B plus K into M for some integer K. Let this be equation number 1. Okay. Now, what we need to prove is A and B leaves the same remainder when B divided by the positive integer M. Now, by division algorithm for B and M, then by division algorithm, when B is divided by M, we have B is equal to some Q into M plus R, where 0 less than or equal to R, which is strictly less than M. So B is equal to Q into M plus R. That is when B is divided by M, there is a unique remainder and a unique quotient, and remainder is R. So when B is divided by M, the remainder obtained is R, having the property that 0 less than or equal to R less than M, and substitute this in 1. So substituting 2 in 1 implies A is equal to, instead of V, we can write Qm plus R plus K into M. So this again can be rewrite as uh, M into Q plus K plus R. Okay, where R has the property 0 less than or equal to R, which is strictly less than M. So since R is strictly less than M, this also by this definition of division algorithm, R is the remainder obtained when A is divided by M. So which is the same remainder of B when divided by M. So we can say that therefore hence A and B leave the same remainder when divided by M. Okay. Now for the converse, suppose that conversely assume that A and B leave the same remainder when divided by M, say R. That is, we can write A as A is equal to some K1 into M plus R, and B is also is equal to some K2 into M plus R, leaves the same remainder. For some K1 and K2 belongs to Z. So their difference, we can take the reference 0, and one more thing, 0 less than or equal to R less than m. So a minus b is equal to k1 minus k2 into m. So this implies m divides a minus b, which implies a is congruent to b modulo m. Hence the theorem. Um, so in this theorem, we proved one more characterization, that is a is congruent to b modulo m if and only if both a and b leave the same remainder when divided by m. Now we move to the first corollary of theorem 4.3. The integer r is the remainder when a is divided by m if and only if a is congruent to r modulo m. The integer r is the remainder when a is divided by m. When a is divided by m, if and only if a is congruent to r modulo m. So a is congruent to r modulo m if and only if r is the remainder when a is divided by m, where r is 0 less than or equal to r less than m. The proof of this corollary is immediate from theorem 4.3, and we leave it as an exercise for you. So try to write the proof. So this corollary says that every integer a is congruent to its remainder r modulo m. So this is the one of the important remark of this corollary, that is every integer a is congruent to its remainder r when divided by m or modulo m. Then this r is called the least residue of a modulo m. This r is called least residue of a modulo m. Least residue. Okay, for example, the least residue of 23 modulo 5. 23 modulo 5 is when 23 is divided by 5, the least residue is the remainder obtained when 23 is divided by 5 by the corollary. So 23 when divided by 5 gives 3 as the remainder. So the least residue of 23 modulo 5 is 3. Or we can write 23 is congruent to 3 modulo 5. This congruency is also true since 5 divides the difference 23 minus 3, that is 3. Sorry, 20. So 5 divides 20, so this congruence holds. So we can say that when 23, the least residue of 23 modulo 5 is 3. And similarly, the least residue of what? Least residue of 29. Residue of 29 when divided by 8. 29 when divided by 8. 29 when divided by 8, the remainder obtained is 24 plus 5. Okay. The least residue of 29 when divided by 8 is equal to 5. And similarly, one more thing, that of minus 3. Minus 3 divided by 18. Divided by 8 is minus 3. But the remainder we are saying in positive form. So it is minus 3 plus 8, that is 5. So 5 is the remainder, or we can write minus 3 congruent to 5 modulo 8. This relation is also true since 8 divides minus 3 minus 5 minus 8. 8 divides minus 8. So this relation also holds. So this about the theorem and its illustration. Corollary. One more corollary is there, which states that corollary 4.2 statement is every integer is congruent to exactly one of the least residues. One of the least residues 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. up to m minus 1 modulo m. This also follows directly from the corollary 4.1, because we know that every integer is congruent modulo m to the remainder obtained when it is divided by m. And the possible remainders for, and we know that one more thing, we know that 0 is less than or equal to r, which is strictly less than m, isn't it? So the possible values of r, possible values for the remainders or least residues are 0, 1, 2, etc. up to m minus 1. So every integer is congruent exactly to one of the least residues 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. up to m minus 1. Okay. Next we are going to prove a result which this corollary is used. So example, 4.2, prove that no prime of the form 4n plus 3 can be expressed as the sum of two squares. So we need to prove that there is no prime of the form 4n plus 3 which can be expressed in the form sum of the two squares. So suppose let n be a prime. The proof is actually by contradiction method. So first let we take the number as n. Let n be a prime of the form, n be a prime of the form 4n plus 3. We need to prove that n cannot be written in the form of, n cannot be equal to sum of two squares, that is sum a square plus b square. N cannot be written in this form. That we need to prove. So assume on the contrary that um, assume on the contrary it is possible to write n as the sum of two squares a square plus as a square plus b square, and we know that n is a prime of the form 4n plus 3. And one more thing, we know that any number of the form, any prime is of the form 4n plus 3 should be odd prime, should be an odd prime, because the only even prime is 2 only, and 4n plus 3 cannot be, 2 cannot be written in the form 4n plus 3. So n is an odd prime number. So since n is odd, n is odd, and n we have, we can be written as a square plus b square. uh, so since n is odd, one of these squares must be odd. N is odd, one of these squares must be odd, say a square. So a square, and we assume that a square is odd, and hence the other square b square must be even. Okay. So a square is odd, implies, this implies a is odd and b is even. So n, therefore n is equal to, which implies a is odd, means a is equal to sum 2a plus 1, and capital B is equal to sum 2b, b 2b is an even number. So n is equal to a square plus b square. We can write it as 2a plus 1 the whole square plus 2b the whole square, which is equal to, by expanding this we get 4a square plus 4a plus 1 plus 4 uh, 4b square. So this is equal to 4 into a square plus a plus b square plus 1. That means n is equal to 4 into this one plus 1. So we can write it as 4 divides n minus 1, or n congruent to 1 modulo 4. This is by the definition of congruence. N is congruent to 1 mod 4, but this is a contradiction, which is a contradiction. Contradiction, and the reason is that n is congruent to, n is an odd integer of the form 4n plus 3, or n is congruent to 3 modulo 4. So this was our assumption, n is congruent to 3 modulo 4, but we have obtained that n is congruent to 1 modulo 4. So this is a contradiction, and this contradiction proves the theorem. Our assumption was wrong, that is n can be written in the form a square plus b square was wrong. So any prime number of the form 4n plus 3 cannot be written as the sum of two squares. Okay, let's stop here. The remaining we will discuss in the next class. Okay, thank you all.